Welcome to the You Can Man podcast, episode 30. I'm Josh.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Dave.
And on this week's episode, secure your castle.
All right, guys, welcome back to the You Can Man podcast, where we believe what one man can do, you can do as well. This week, secure your castle. What does that mean? We're going to hear from burglars and what they had to say about when they were about to break into a house.
Are we having burglars in studio?
No.
These are internet burglars.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I got worried.
Okay, so we think that this is probably going to be kind of like a part one of a home security series, but they won't be consecutive. So we'll probably do another.
This is going to be like a broad, overarching.
Yeah,
We're going to dip our toe into the...
We kind of wanted to lay the foundation of, we wanted to hear from actual burglars of what they're doing.
How they target.
what they're looking
victims.
for.
Yeah, so we're going to go
house they
through this article that Josh ran across about what burglars say they're looking for, what they avoid, all this kind of stuff when they're looking to burglarize a home. So that is what is on the docket today. But first, Dave, how was your week?
Fine. I had kind of a weird weekend. Do you guys ever have those weekends where you don't do anything? Like you get nothing done?
Yes.
That is not me.
Common.
That's not how I roll. I like to always be doing stuff and busy and kind of running around getting things done. But this is one of those weekends, and they happen more often now because I have kids, and those little rugrats just kind of, lay waste to my plans. But I just didn't get a whole lot done, and I was telling my wife tonight, I was like, man, I feel kind of worthless because all right, so part of the problem is my lawnmower bit the dust. So I don't have a lawnmower, so I can't cut the grass. Then I was supposed to put some gutters up, but I went to Home Depot to buy said gutters, and I was like, wow, I haven't planned this project out well enough. There's a lot of stuff I need. So I was like, I'm going to go home and plan everything out. So yeah, I just didn't get a lot done.
It was a planning
I've done
weekend.
that.
I don't feel real good about myself.
There needs to be a term for this. When you go to Home Depot and there's a certain project, but then you get there and you're like, I didn't make a list.
Yeah.
And there's 17 things that go along with
And
this.
then you're just like, I'm just going to leave.
I'm just going to back out slowly.
Because if I don't get everything right now, I just can't.
Yeah, that's
We need
exactly
to-
what I
We
did.
need to coin that term because that is a thing for sure. Yeah.
I took pictures of the entire gutter aisle so that I could know, like I could map out what I need to get. How many pieces?
How many times have you guys been in Home Depot and you're sitting there trying to do calculations and just thinking through all the stuff that you need? And one of the Home Depot employees comes up like, what do you need?
Leave me alone.
Yeah. You're just like, I'm
good.
I'm just thinking here.
I don't know, but I don't need your help. I know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, so I kind of had a similar weekend. I actually got a couple of things done, but we are expecting child number 3
Whoa.
in the next few weeks.
Wow. It's
And-
imminent.
Yeah, and this was the weekend where we were like, "Oh, we have
should
another
paint the
human.
entire room.
Another human's going to be in this house.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do with the 2 that are existing? Because they have their own room.
The existing humans.
Yep. So consolidating 2 boys into 1 room, getting a nursery ready for a baby.
Wow, that sounds like a war zone.
Yeah.
2 kids under the age of 5.
We did pretty good. I hung 3 shelves. That's what I did this weekend.
Good for you.
I cut shelves to length and hung them
Wow.
in the closet.
Josh, it sounds like you need to look at my loft bed design on youcanman.com.
Yeah.
It actually is really it's a cool thing.
Yeah. So
check it out.
Will graduate to that. They're a little young, and the older one just got his cast off from breaking his leg last week. So
yeah,
my wife's not ready for the
need
bunks
that.
yet.
You remember that loft that you built at the house we lived at
Yes.
years ago? And it was literally, I think it was, 10 feet in the air? I know I could do like pull-ups on it.
It was 8. You
8
could
feet.
walk.
You could
an
easily-
adult man walks under it.
Easily walk under
Had a
it.
vaulted ceiling.
It was uncomfortably tall.
Yeah,
I
it
remember
was
you built it.
weird.
I
It
like
was
climbed up
super
there. I was
weird.
like, okay, this is
Yeah.
really, really
You
tall.
shouldn't have that when you're 22
Yeah.
or 23, like I was. And Adam Carolla has a
You
rich
had
man, poor
a
man thing.
bunk bed at age 23.
Yeah, he said Adam Carolla says there's a sweet spot for bed height. And if you're like way off the ground, you know, things might not be going too well for you as an adult. Or if you're like on the ground,
That's
things probably aren't going too well either.
It's not going
There's
well.
a sweet bed height spot.
Well, that's true for, when you were way, way high.
That was a low point in my life. I mean, let's be honest. But I saved floor space. So
You did.
all right, let's get into the topic. Unless
let's go
Tim,
ahead.
you had something to add.
No, I mean, I did start kind of running.
Yeah, getting on the
I
program,
think
bro.
I had talked about, did
Yeah.
I talk about like months ago? Where
Months ago, you said I'm gonna start running
Well, I ran and then I trashed my feet, like where I couldn't walk the next
'Cause
day.
you ran
Did you
in
cryogenically
designer.
freeze them off like
And then-
Antonio Brown?
So, anyways, put it off, and then I actually got decent shoes, and
Yes,
so went running
that's what-
three separate times this week, and I
Sweet.
plan on keeping that going.
Nice.
So
well,
see.
if you want us to, we'll bring it up every week on the podcast.
We're definitely going to do that. We should have a You Can Man like 5K or something.
Oh yeah.
Let's do it.
All right.
yeah, it's
tuned.
gonna be a little bit before. How many miles is it? 5?
3.1.
Okay, that's right.
You can do that.
You
That's
know,
reachable.
I'm coming up
In
like
6 weeks, you got that.
I'm a little over half of that,
You're
so I think
good.
I could probably do
You
it.
could,
gold.
you could. What?
You can run the gobble jog. That's for sure.
Yeah, target the gobble jog on Thanksgiving Day in Marietta, Georgia.
Yes.
Yeah, for our listeners that are not from here, that's kind of the annual tradition on Is it Thanksgiving
Yeah.
Day?
Thanksgiving morning.
How many were there this last year? It was like 20,000 people
No
or
idea.
something.
Couldn't tell
It was
you.
over 10,000 people. This is
Yeah.
a big event.
I ran the inaugural one without a shirt in November, right?
Wow.
Shirtless. I was pretty young.
Were you under 20?
If not under 20, very close to it.
Okay.
And it was small back then, but yeah, not a good race to run shirtless.
Yeah.
That's a cold day.
All right, let's get into this. The topic for today. So, basically, we're going over questions that interviewers asked convicted burglars that I guess were in jail.
Yeah, so
Maybe
I'll
they
kind of
interviewed-
I'll set the stage for
Sure.
it. So a news channel, KGW, give them credit, out of Portland, they sent letters that were in the form of a survey to 86 inmates who were serving time for burglary, and they asked them to anonymously fill out these surveys, and they did.
Tell the
Most of
truth,
the
criminals.
Yeah, most of these 86 guys submitted their answers. And so these are kind of a compilation of their answers. And we're just going to work through them a little bit because this is going to give us an idea of, man, if I'm worried about home security, about what really matters, who better than actual burglars to let us know what we should look out for?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, so first one, how do we typically break into a home or an apartment?
Should we give the honest guy's opinion and then
you
go to
guys
the
can
list?
chime in. and
I'm
then
gonna
I'll give
say
you, like, the
if I'm a
actuals.
burglar, I'm going straight through the front door. My right foot is just kicking it. No, not really. I don't know. I'm looking for like a back door, like a basement door.
Okay. Yeah, doors and windows. I mean, those are the points of egress.
Well, how else are you gonna
They
break in?
check, yeah, they check for unlocked. So that's a thing.
Obviously.
Now, guilty as charged. I'm a guy who's like, if someone wants to get in, they're gonna get in.
Yeah,
Which
the two,
is
both
true,
of you
but-
keep your doors unlocked.
No, I don't keep them unlocked. I just don't. I can go to sleep at night knowing maybe I didn't lock that door.
Really?
Yeah.
I've literally
Can
checked
my
the door
wife-
3 times.
Can my wife? No. I will get up and go check that door. But
Wow.
I could go to sleep.
I do think, as a general rule, locked doors keeps honest people out.
I
mean,
love that statement just because I think it's funny. Okay, because that's
but
crazy.
I
Just
still,
lock your door.
I still lock my doors, but I'm just saying, like, if somebody does want to get in, but we're talking burglary here, so we're not.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother ballgame.
Right.
So we're talking.
if someone wanted to do you harm, these aren't these. people.
Sure. This is opportunistic
Yeah.
burglars.
Yes.
So yes, of course you need to lock your doors.
Yeah. And it didn't seem like they mattered. I mean, one guy did say, I would try to kick a door in rather than breaking a glass. He says that breaking glass is louder.
Really?
Yeah. So he would try to kick the door in.
Well,
first.
Andy said that you run the risk of getting cut too.
Yeah, that
So-
too. Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
lot of evidence at the crime scene.
Yeah.
So
Hey, real quick about kicking doors in though. What do you guys do when you're installing a new door, an exterior door, that is? I use 3-inch
Yeah.
long screws
I use
on
the
deadbolt.
the longest screw that I can get that's not going to like run into any electrical box or like
Exactly.
an adjacent window. I use the longest screws I can.
And what we're talking about here, guys, is the
bolt set.
the actual latch though itself.
Yeah, the
So
latch and the door jamb.
on the
okay, so
door
not on
jamb
the
side.
door. Yeah, the screws that come with the lock set are very, very
They're like
small.
an
They're
inch
short.
long.
Yeah, they're
Some
not.
come with long ones. I've installed ones that came with the long screws.
Yeah, you
Okay.
need some big screws going in there.
Yeah.
and that just helps.
Long ones.
because the door trim itself, like an interior door, you can kick through that in a second if you really want to. So, all right. So once you get inside, what was the first thing you looked to steal? Obviously, this is like
I'm looking for cash.
Home Alone type stuff, jewelry, electronics, cash,
Yeah.
credit cards, all attractive. Guns. Multiple guys mentioned guns, like collectible guns.
Makes sense.
One guy even said if there was an NRA sticker on the car bumper, that signaled to him that this person likes guns and likely had a lot in the house. And again, they're talking about if the person's not home.
Yeah, don't advertise what you got.
Yeah.
Kind of a
It's a good rule.
yeah.
It's a good rule. What time of day did they come in? And most of them preferred.
For me, it would be kind of like the middle of the day when people aren't home, right?
Yep. That's pretty much what they said.
Because if you're a burglar, you're just trying to steal stuff. You don't want to be dealing with people, right? You want to go when nobody's there.
Yeah. Don't want anyone home for lunch. They didn't want any kids home from school. They wanted kids still in school.
So they did between 12:30 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. So that's after lunch. So if anybody comes home, and then before the kids get home.
Yep.
12:30 to 2:30 was the opportune time for most of these guys.
Yeah. So I've heard this a lot that, I'll just get the home security sticker or the home security sign and stick it in my yard. They said there was mixed opinions on this because some burglars were like, I would completely ignore it. But others said, it may be a sign that there actually is an alarm or you might avoid.
But they also
setting
said
those
that
alarms off.
they knew how to disarm.
Yeah, some
it.
of these guys apparently had some skills, like they could disarm home security alarms.
Yeah,
which is
for
kinda
me,
crazy.
I think it kind of makes sense to have one because if you have one but your neighbor doesn't, and I'm a burglar, I'm going to the one that doesn't have the sticker or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of creates a bit of a deterrent.
Yeah. All things being equal.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I've also heard them say, excuse me, Josh, that if you do have a home security system, then that could kind of suggest to the burglar that you've got something to protect in there.
True.
But I mean, who doesn't, right?
Right. Let's see. So this next one is my only thought about, not my only thought. I don't think about home security a lot, but when we had a dog, we had a big dog. And sadly, a few months ago, we lost our dog, but this dog was my home security system. That is what I told myself.
Except when you
every
weren't
day.
home.
Yeah.
She was extremely quiet. Like
Okay.
No,
when,
if someone would knock on the door,
it was
like
going crazy.
You couldn't get her to shut up.
It was hilarious though because she would do that when you guys were home.
Yes.
However, when you
Yes.
guys would go out of town
Yes.
and I'd go over to feed her,
Yep.
I'd walk straight in. I look at her and she's just like, "And
Yeah.
like
I'm kind of okay.
Yeah.
with
you
that.
woke me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you here? Are
She
you
was
here
very
to take me
protective
outside?"
of her people, which was good.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I don't have a lot of valuables to take.
It's like she
so
was like, "The valuables are over here."
take what you wish. Yeah, and that's kind of how burglars look at dogs. Big dogs, most burglars stay away. Some guys said small ones wouldn't bother me. Others even said dogs are a deal breaker. If there's a dog in the house,
Yeah, because it's
I ain't
making
going
noise,
in.
right?
Yep.
It's making noise.
Big breeds, home protectors are the best to keep people out.
Yeah, but I've heard that before. That wasn't like for other. It was the same kind of thing. Ask a burglar, and for them, that was the number one thing. Was any dog, any size, just one that barks.
Yeah.
They didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is it worth having a dog? Debatable.
So yeah, I don't. know
A dog's a
about
big
that.
commitment. If you love dogs, it's totally worth it.
Yep, go
All right.
for it.
This one here. This is a weird question. It sounds like something a news person would ask. But so, did you typically knock on the front door before breaking into a home? So this is just kind of like the preliminary check. Is anyone home? Yes, all of them said they would knock on the front door.
Like
which-
100%.
And I want to know how I wish they would have asked about, because so many people have the Ring and cameras and all this kind of stuff, and so obviously that's got to deter. I mean,
this was done a couple years ago, and I feel like those cameras have come into more common.
Yeah, they're a lot more common.
But that's a great.
That had to have completely changed the game.
Yes,
because you're not going to just go straight up. I mean, your mug is on their thing, and whenever you do that, they're going to get an alert on their phone.
Yeah. And what's great, I mean, one of the few good things about nextdoor.com is if someone's canvassing a neighborhood and the neighborhood has multiple cameras, now you have multiple people in the neighborhood saying, okay, this weird guy that looks like this has been knocking on doors. So like, watch out. Now he may be selling stuff. But
and for our listeners who may not know what nextdoor.com is, it's basically connecting you. Think of it as it's like a Facebook for really old people. I don't know. Like
it's a way to figure out which neighbors are crazy and which ones aren't.
Yes, that's a good description.
I mean, we have to. I think we've said this before. We have to do like a show on nextdoor.com. It's just its own kind of. I don't even know how to describe it. It's a special place. But it's connecting you with your actual direct neighbors.
Yeah.
So it's a social platform, but it's more of like a community bulletin type thing.
Yeah.
And then, you'll have the lady that says, saw this, white Cadillac running through the neighborhood today and, blah, 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 something.
Yes.
And then,
Yeah, I saw a post just yesterday that came up and it's the title of it just said, enough with the loud exhaust. I was like, all right, problem solved. Good for you. Nextdoor is, if you can imagine an HOA meeting.
That's what I was going to say. It's like on the internet.
Perpetual HOA meeting on the internet. It's the best.
Well, where people don't have to actually say it to them at their face. So they just let it fly.
I'm going to pound these keys really hard and I'm going to be angry.
Yes. So, okay. All of the guys said they would knock on the door, which is interesting. But if we have all these Ring doorbell systems and all that, they would, if they got busted or if someone was home, they would just say, "Oh, sorry, wrong house," or I lost my dog, I'm looking for her," whatever excuse they would come up with.
Yeah, so if you have someone knock on your door when you're home, middle of the day,
what do you want?
And they give you any sort of explanation like, "Oh yeah, just looking for my dog," or weren't you the one that had the thing for sale on Craigslist or whatever? Then they're probably canvassing your neighborhood and you should really try to pick up.
Oh, yeah. Highly likely. And you should call the police immediately if they ask you any strange question.
Yeah. If they don't introduce themselves and say that they're with a company that's selling something, then there's questions.
Okay.
I mean, that could be an excuse, but door-to-door sales is just so weird in today's age. Like, I just had a guy hit me up in the driveway yesterday. We had tons of torrential rain overnight one night, and like the foundations guys were walking around the neighborhood.
It's like an ambulance chaser.
Exactly, an ambulance chaser. And it's just kind of weird. It's a weird way to do business today. I don't know.
It is strange.
Might be sad, but okay. If a home alarm system went off, what would you do to the burglar? Most guys said they would leave immediately.
Makes sense.
That's what it's there for. Some of the guys said they would try to turn it off. So I guess there's sophisticated dudes out there that can.
I mean, isn't that just one wire? If you cut like the phone wire, then
I don't know, but I think that's like part of. It's like a bomb.
Yeah, it does not depend. Well, first of all, it's not dependent upon like actual phone lines or anything like that anymore.
Sure, it is. Or like an internet line.
I mean, I would think that any system now is going to have the cell coverage and all that kind of stuff. But we haven't researched all this, guys.
Yeah, well,
I think Dave has a little bit.
According to the commercials, there's a really pretty 25-year-old woman that'll call into your house and say, "Leave immediately.
Yes.
You're on camera," or whatever.
Yeah, but we'll save all that for the future show we're going to have on a more of like the tech things.
Yeah, there is a whole other, and we've got guys in our Facebook group who appear to be experts to me on security cameras and apps and all that stuff. So we'll definitely get into that. All right, if there was a security camera visible, would that keep you away? Generally, they agreed that those were a deterrent. So if they saw security cameras on the home, they're gonna.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying about the front door.
So that
the
works
Ring app and all that kind of
into that.
stuff. That's got to cut down tremendously.
All right. lights on in the home. We'll group this one with the other one. Lights on, or if you heard a TV or radio in the house, what's the deal? Mixed responses on lighting. Some said a combination of lights on and blinds closed created an attractive location. So that means they can move around inside without being seen if the blinds were closed. TVs, radios, it sounded like that was definitely a deterrent. If they hear noises or if it sounds like someone could be watching TV inside, they would stay away. But I'm also looking into that one specifically. I've heard there are apps or like little gadgets that can make it look like a TV's flickering at night, like in your room. Like if you're away, you can make like one room look like there's a TV running or something like that.
I heard a good recommendation one time. A guy said to go outside your house at night and kind of set it up like when you leave and look at what it looks like. I mean, if you turn all the lights out and you go stand in your street and you look at your house and it's just pitch black, I mean, it's obvious that nobody's home. So it's something to think about. When I leave, I always leave a few lights on kind of throughout the house just to make it look like, somebody's in each room. But it's a good thing to do. Go out your street, look at your house. After you've left, what does it look like? Does it look like a house that,
Or you could just set up an entire Home Alone system.
and just have like the Michael Jordan on the train going through the house.
Yeah, and rocking around the Christmas tree playing. All right. Would there be a difference? Would it make a difference if there was a vehicle in the driveway? Most guys said, yeah,
that
looks
makes
like
sense.
Someone's home.
Yep.
So
buy a car just to park it in the driveway and never
bonus
move
of
it.
having a terrible garage for me. I got two
you always
cars
got cars in the driveway.
Yeah, so win-win. All right, ideal target for a burglary, somewhere where they couldn't be seen, big fences, overgrown trees or shrubs, homes that are kind of isolated, or homes with cheap wooden doors or cheap window frames. Again, large trees or bushes or shrubs. Multiple guys mentioned this. One guy said a nice home and a nice car equals somebody with money.
That guy's brilliant. I mean, I hope
that's next level thinking.
Yeah, I think they sent him a thank you card.
I think those are good points, though. Just to make your home. I mean, what you're trying to do is not make your home attractive to a burglar. Okay, and if you have a house that's well lit at night. Okay, even though it says they, basically never break in at night, but a well-lit home at night and not having bushes overgrown all over the windows, covering windows, covering doors, side doors, keep those trimmed back.
All right, so we're going to move kind of to the end here. The last question was, what is the one thing that homeowners could do to avoid being burglarized? And so there are going to be a few different answers here. One guy says, I think that good lighting, trimmed bushes, and get to know your neighbors, because nosy neighbors will call the police on your behalf if things are going on weird at your house. One guy says leave a TV or radio on. One guy says put bars on your doors and windows. Wow. Get an alarm. Keep an extra car in the driveway. Keep the TVs and radios on and lights when you leave your home.
That was all from the same guy?
Okay,
so
he's checking all the boxes, I guess. Home alarm. This is the third guy here. Home alarm. Know your neighbors. So that's a big one. Know your neighbors.
Yeah, just having a community, right?
Yeah. Yep, someone that cares about your property. A side note I wanted to add here, most of the inmates who responded were remorseful.
Obviously.
They thanked the news station for giving them the chance to give back in some way.
Hey, look, the prison system's working, all right? It's reforming them.
And so that was a little nice touch there. So a couple points from other surveys that we wanted to bring up just for kind of paint the bigger picture here. A lot of folks, when they go on vacation, they need to show that vacation off. I've been guilty of it.
I do not do that because it advertises, right?
Of course you don't do it, Dave. You're not on any social media.
I have a social media presence.
You can post it in the UCAN Man Facebook group, Dave, because it's a closed group, and
I have commented and responded to requests to make appearances in that group.
And we thank you for your time.
Yes, you're welcome.
So on social media, don't broadcast that you're out of town.
Just wait till you come back. If you want to post the pictures, wait till you come back.
Yes, but
no brainer. I mean, come on.
I've been guilty of it though.
I think most people have. Most people do.
So Stop your mail when you're gone or have your neighbor pick it up. That's an easy one.
yeah.
If you're going to be gone a really long time, get someone to cut your grass. Overgrown lawns is a big one.
Trash cans as well. I've been guilty of that where, I'll leave on Sunday, I'll put the trash cans out, and then I'm gone all week, and I come back, and sometimes the trash cans will have been moved for me, which is very nice by a nice neighbor. Sometimes they're not, and it's like, my house is very clearly not occupied for a week.
I've taken out your trash before,
Yes,
I
you
think,
have.
Josh.
Well, you're the nosy neighbor, too.
Yeah, you guys have done a lot for us as far as collecting our mail. We've returned the favor probably on a 1 to 10 ratio.
I don't collect my mail during the week when I'm at home. So
Oh, okay. All right. We went over lighting. Light up your house, light up the entrances, use motion sensors on your lights. That's a deterrent there. We talked about landscaping. Keep your lawn cut. Keep the bushes away from the windows. Keep your yard clean in general. This was an interesting one that I didn't think about, but it makes sense. Like, don't leave ladders outside.
Yes,
a lot of folks
all right.
have ladders outside.
I thought about that. I think about that all the time. So my neighbor has had a ladder outside, and I'm like, dude, that's just giving somebody easy access. Like upstairs, windows are often unlocked.
Yeah.
I've noticed that in my house. And if you have a ladder,
Yeah.
you can get in pretty easy.
Yeah.
Do you guys think, just kind of random, but having a house, so like I'm just thinking through, like, say you're shopping for a house. I think that having a house that is further back off the street would help. No?
I don't think so
I don't know.
because that's,
It's more isolated.
yeah, they don't want to, like a burglar doesn't want to be seen. And so if they're farther away off the street, that just gives them more privacy, right?
I have heard, though, that you don't want the first house in a neighborhood. Because if someone hits a house, they're like going to hightail it real quick. And if you're right on the main street and they can bounce
Easy
real quick,
access and easy egress.
That's what I've heard. So back to like keeping your yard clean and ladders and things like that. Just tools in general. Like if you have a shed, for instance, that thing's got to be secure. If you have a shed with hammers and stuff in it, it's just, again, opportunity. Last one we'll mention, change your locks or use your locks, change your locks if you're in a new house. Or if you had like a crazy roommate or something and they move out, change your locks. We've mentioned it on the podcast before on the New House Know-How episodes. But yeah, changing locks. That's
And at the very least, use longer screws on those latch for the deadbolts.
Yes, that's
the
an
jam side.
often overlooked one and easy to fix.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, so I think that pretty much wraps it up. Again, that was a broad umbrella overview of home security. There's multiple topics within this that we'll get into down the road in specificity.
Yeah, and you guys that chimed in on a previous post on our Facebook group, if you guys would chime in again and let us kind of know what we should really, really hit on that next show about home security systems and all the cameras and all the tech involved, because we're going to be like heavily researching that and trying to bring all that to the table on a future show. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Josh has a segment this week. We'll be back right after the break.
This episode is sponsored by 1776 United. 1776 United is a patriotic and historically inspired lifestyle brand. They make the best patriotic shirts and apparel on the market today. I personally own many of their products, and if you want to don patriotic gear without looking gaudy, check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and at 1776united.com.
All right, guys, welcome back. Josh, I hope you're going to continue this theme of like crazy survival stories.
Yeah, I have like a morbid thread running right now, and I'm going to continue it.
Nice.
And this segment is called Liquid Death.
Liquid death.
Whoa.
Yeah, so this is a follow-on to Free Fallin', if you enjoyed that one.
Are people drowning in this one, or are they being liquefied?
Okay, we'll get to it.
Yeah, if you're just joining the You Can Man podcast,
Josh is weird,
Josh
and
he's done a segment on people falling from planes from like 30,000 feet and surviving. Yes, I know. It sounds crazy. Or people having to get pressure relieved from their head by getting holes drilled in their head by everyday cordless drills.
Yes.
So just to kind of give you a background. All right, Josh, take it away. Liquid death.
All right, Liquid Death. So I'm going to take you back to the 19th century, which is the 1800s, early 1800s to be exact, 1814. And there were two of the largest breweries in London. London, big beer town, always been a big beer town. So there was one in particular, one of the top two, called Moo Brewery. And Moo is spelled M-E-U-X.
Moo.
It's French. I looked it up. Moo is, I think, the right pronunciation. Not important to the story. But the Moo Brewery was one of the two largest. And one afternoon in October, a clerk at this brewery is looking at one of the vats that held 126,000 gallons of beer.
Sounds like a lot.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot. It's 3,500 barrels of beer. So it's like a water tower of beer.
I was going to say, is that a swimming pool or bigger?
I don't know. Bigger. We can do the math on it. 3,500 barrels, 22 feet tall. So literal water tower full of beer. This clerk goes in. He noticed that one of the iron bands, and it's old school barrel type, right?
Yeah.
One of these iron bands that weighs 700 pounds has slipped a little bit. And he was a little concerned. He told his supervisor, this thing slipped.
Somebody check it out.
He was told, it's good. It happens. Write down a note that, maintenance needs to come check this out and we'll get it fixed. So within an hour, this dude was standing on a platform that was 30 feet from the vat, holding this note that he had just written, when the whole vessel just
gives way,
explodes. Now, again, we're talking 3,500 barrels. Just imagine.
Yeah, you're getting swept away, tower. Right?
Yeah. So the force of the liquid knocked into the next vat, blew that one up.
Holy cow.
Now you got two of these things just discharging tons of beer, somewhere between 128,000 and 323,000 gallons of beer.
Okay, stop.
Wait a second. I think I've heard this story before.
Well, it's a big deal.
If you're going to die like this, let's say it's either going to be a tsunami, okay, or an avalanche of beer. I'm picking the avalanche of beer, right? Like if you're going to go, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'd rather it be beer than water is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? I'm not a big beer drinker, but it seems like, if you're going to go, I'll take the river of beer.
The beer tsunami over the ocean.
Oh, yeah, yes. But it may not have been done yet, though.
Okay.
Maybe not.
It might have been like in that weird, funky stage.
That's true. Yeah.
It might not have been drinkable. So either way, the liquid splashes a tsunami that's 25 feet tall. It breaks through the rear wall of the brewery. The back wall of the brewery was 2.5 bricks thick.
Jeez.
Knocked that down. It was a 25-foot wall. Knocked that down. Some of the bricks from that wall were knocked up and over onto houses that were nearby the brewery. The wave, once it got in the street, was like 15 feet high.
What?
Sweeping down New Street, destroyed 2 houses, badly damaged others. Sadly, loss of life here. This is really sad. There was a wake going on for a 2-year-old boy. So an Irish family.
Come on.
There was a wake going on. It took out the wake.
Good grief.
6 of the mourners at the wake were killed.
Wow.
And the land around the building was really low lying and pretty flat. And beer went down into the cellars of these houses, causing people to have to exit their homes and climb on furniture to stop from drowning. 3 of the workmen had to be rescued from the rubble at the brewery.
What about my boy with the note?
He survived.
Yeah, I was going to guess.
The workers at the brewery survived.
Wow.
Some were taken to the hospital. And so I think all in all, there were 6 deceased. I didn't get like an injury count.
Just imagine what you'd be thinking.
It's an unexpected way to go.
I mean, you would just be like, what is even happening? I'm dead. Yeah. Like, what?
Yeah. There'd be a lot of questions, right?
Yeah. Both of these are horribly funny. Last note on this that I just thought was interesting that I came across. So stories in the papers started coming out of, just these mass drunkenness and like people dying from alcohol poisoning within days and all this stuff. Well, these historians looked into, I guess these were like urban legends that had started. They weren't stories right after, but urban legends had started from after this, obviously. So, but historians looked back into like the newspaper articles, and one particular gentleman stated that the popular press of the time did not like the immigrant Irish population that lived in St. Giles. So if there had been any misbehavior, it definitely would have been reported.
Okay.
So he went to the newspapers, read the newspapers. There was no reports of drunkenness or death by alcohol poisoning. And he said the papers hated the Irish, so they would have reported on that.
Right. That makes sense that nobody died of alcohol.
I mean, that's a good fact check on that. Yeah. So, all right. So that's story number one. That was 1814, the London beer flood. Now, fast forward 101 years later.
Not again.
We're in 1919. We're in Boston. And you've probably heard of this. I'd heard of it. I didn't know what it was, but I'd heard of it. This is the Great Molasses Flood of 1919.
What?
In Boston.
Never heard of it.
Also known as the Boston Molasses Disaster, the Great Boston Molasses Flood.
That's a slow-moving flood.
Sometimes referred locally as the Boston Molassacre.
Okay.
Molassacre.
So that's the
hilarious.
That's the best name I've heard so
hilarious.
far.
Okay, so it's January. It's 1919. North end of the Boston, north end neighborhood of Boston, a large storage tank of molasses bursts. It has 2.3 million gallons of molasses in it, which is 3.5 Olympic swimming pools.
Okay, sounds like a lot.
Okay. That vat broke. The storage tank broke. A 25-foot wave of molasses rushed through the streets at an estimated 35 miles per hour.
I can't believe that.
Killing 21 and injuring 150.
Wow.
Okay. So this has entered folklore, local folklore.
Was it hot? Like, was it hot molasses?
Dude, it was January in Boston.
Yeah,
it's cold, man.
Yeah, but are they like cooking it? Or?
I'll get to that. So here's what's going on. The residents claim for decades later that on hot summer days, you could still smell molasses.
I was going to say that about the beer. You're not getting that smell out, right?
So witnesses reported that they felt the ground shake and they could hear the roar of the collapse and the stream of molasses coming. They reported a thunderclap like bang and machine gun like sounds as the rivets shot out of this tank. A streetcar was tipped off of its tracks. I looked at the pictures of this thing. Like, it took steel elevated train tracks in Chicago and in Boston and just warped them, just twisted them all up.
Wow.
Okay. So this is crazy. Some people went back about 100 years later, which was about a few years ago, and did some analysis. Some engineers went back and did some analysis on this disaster because it was a huge deal, killing 21. Mark Rossow, who's a civil engineer, he says, it's kind of funny at first, but then you realize it's pretty horrible. So they did some testing on, what actually happened, because at the time there was a trial that lasted for years and produced 20,000 pages of totally conflicting testimony. It was the early 1900s. Corporations were not regulated at all, hardly, and people could buy people off really easier than they can today. And so the company that was responsible claimed that terrorists had blown up the tanks. Because what they were doing, and this is interesting, the reason we had this much molasses is they were able to pull alcohol from the molasses. And this alcohol, like pure alcohol, would be used for making dynamite.
Whoa.
Okay, so that's the reason that there was so much molasses in one place? Because that was my question. I was like,
Why do we have
drink
this
that much
gigantic?
syrup,
seems
or
weird.
like what's going on? So one engineer ran some tests. She ran some fluid dynamics tests, and she did some recreations of a tank, some scaled experiments of a tank with molasses exploding and failing. And she did, in fact, say that this would have run at 35 miles an hour. It was an unusually warm day. It was only like around 40 degrees, but normally in January in Boston, it's colder than that. And it was during the day, so the molasses had warmed up a bit. But 35 miles an hour, molasses. Some other investigations found that the steel that was used didn't have enough manganese in it.
Okay.
It was much too brittle, and the temperature swings caused the metal to fail. Ultimately, also the metal was likely too thin. They had very thin metal throughout the whole thing.
Oh, that's the kiss of death. Too thin and no manganese.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah, and
right?
these were tanks, I believe, that were completely steel tanks.
Okay.
They weren't the wooden tanks with the bands on it.
Well, we know that those don't work either from the last story.
Yeah, not when they're overloaded. Once the floodgates opened, it was just, there was nothing that was going to stop it. It actually, because it's thick, it's 1.5 times denser than water. It went out, and then when the sun went down and it cooled, people became stuck in it.
I was going to say, I'd be like, I don't know how to swim in this.
There was one incident of someone being suffocated overnight by
I mean, how do you clean that up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a ton. One more point I'll just make is, so the engineers that looked back said this is definitely a failure of the equipment, and it wasn't a lack of knowledge. They said this is an ethics issue. There was similar to the case in London where a clerk saw the band slip and no one thought it was important. There were incidents here of people that worked at the plant finding shards of metal that had come off the tank and saying, "Hey, what's up with this?" And the guy's like, "Hey, tank's still standing. I don't know what to tell you."
Wow.
So they said they knew they should have known better, basically. It wasn't like a lack of technology. Also, this was one of the first class action lawsuits that was brought in Massachusetts, and it was considered a milestone in paving the way for modern corporate regulation. They ultimately paid out $628,000 in damages, which is $9.08 million in 2018. And relatives of those killed reportedly received around $7,000 per victim, which is equivalent to about $100,000 today. So that is the Great Molasses Flood.
I had never heard about that.
I hadn't either.
The Boston molasses.
Man, what are you going to do next, Josh? I mean, how many?
I don't know. These crazy.
Somebody
I've actually got some other.
Some in the
ideas.
hopper.
Yep. There's a lot of weird ways to go or survive. I'll just tell you that.
All right. Well, good. Well, I'm looking forward to your next, I don't know, death segment.
Yeah. All right. Is that me?
That's kind of what you do, man.
That's me now. Great.
Yeah. All right. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in to the You Can Man podcast this week. Make sure to check out our Facebook group. And we got a lot of activity going on over there, so check that out. Check out our show notes at youcanman.com. Hey, take some time to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'd really, really appreciate that. We'll see you next time.